First thing he told me to do is ask you to turn your cell phones off. So if anybody has a cell phone that's still operating and it might make a noise, please turn it off. It's something that we have to do. It used to be the fire marshal that got to go first. Now it's a cell phone announcement. But I certainly want to, on behalf of the trial courts, the criminal courts of Davidson County, Tennessee, the Wyatt family, and many others who are a part of this, to welcome you to this, the formal unveiling of the J. Randall Wyatt Jr. portrait. It is not a hanging, contrary to conversations I've heard in the hallway of the building. It is a portrait unveiling. The hanging occurs later where witnesses are not present. My name is Ed Yarborough. It's my honor to be sort of an MC today, but this will be an informal occasion. And in order to invoke the presence of the Lord in our ceremony today, we've asked Father Joe Patrick Breen to come and give the invocation.
They invited me to do this because I don't charge very much at all. But it is an honor. I always grew up with a real appreciation for our judiciary and you men and women who belong to that, like Randall, Judge Wyatt. You certainly have a lot to be very proud of. And I hope you continue to enjoy your work. As I shared with little kids, you still do your best, and you always do what's right. And that's what makes this occasion so special. Been always an honor to be with Judge Randall Wyatt. So let us pray. Lord, it's good to be here. We thank you for living in such a great city, such a great country. Help us to always do our best and do what's right. Help us always to appreciate the greatness of your creation. Diversity is what makes everything go so well. May we continue to see in each other your dignity, your goodness. We ask you to continue to bless such a great judge for so many years, whom we honor today, that with his wife Kay and his 5 children, grant him some more years of being healthy in mind, body, and spirit. And as we have so much to be thankful for in the next couple of weeks, as we prepare for Thanksgiving, to spouses, to children, to parents and grandparents, to dear friends, help us to be very thankful in word and deed, and continue to bless all of us. Fill our minds with your wisdom, fill our hearts with your love, and place your words of mercy, forgiveness on our lips, that will be always worthy of your greatest blessings. Amen. Amen. That woke you up, didn't it?
Father Breen, he never disappoints.
Tell that to my bishop.
Yeah. Do you hear that? He said, tell that to my bishop. I guess today's ceremony is living proof that if you live long enough, keep your nose clean, you might get your picture in the courthouse. Our honoree today was born in November of 1937 on the very day that the historic courthouse across the street opened for business. Yeah, December, I'm sorry, the 6th, yeah. He's correcting me. He's always done that. From there, he had a long and distinguished career, not as a student necessarily, but as a jurist and as an FBI agent, as a police legal advisor, a police officer, an assistant district attorney, and of course, as a judge. He was first elected to the General Sessions Court, Davidson County in 1974, in a contested election handled by Hal Hardin down here. And then in 1982, when he had no opposition, I took over and was with him for the next 35 years, where he continued to have no opposition. And just 2 years ago, after finishing his term as the longest sitting criminal court judge in the history of Nashville, Davidson County, Tennessee, he chose to retire and go home and spend more time with Kay and all the grandchildren. So I'm not going to say any more about him right now. I might say a few more things later when it's my opportunity to introduce him. But what I want to do now is introduce to you the man who is actually responsible for what we're doing today, who was the spearhead for the portrait preparation and the fundraising and all that went on, Mr. Jim Todd. And I'm going to ask Jim to either come forward or take the microphone. I'm not sure he's going to come up here. He's going to handle the actual unveiling part of it, and then Hal Hardin will participate in that and have a few words to say before we give Judge Wyatt his opportunity for rebuttal.
I told Chuck a minute ago, this is sort of like the legal State of the Union. And so I'm going to have to ask one judge to leave the building in case something bad happens. Lisa Naylor is my co-pilot in this endeavor. And on behalf of Lisa, I want to start by saying that we are blessed to have wonderful judges in all of our courthouses in Davidson County. We unfortunately lost two great ones when Judge Norman and Judge Wyatt decided to retire, but we were blessed to get two great ones in their place with Judge Dalton and Judge Smith. Lisa agrees with me that the best part about soliciting funds for this project was listening to everyone repeatedly say how much they loved Judge Wyatt. The resounding sentiment is no matter who you were, no matter how long you practiced, how smart you were, how inexperienced you were, or whatever kind of client you represented, you knew in front of Judge Wyatt that you and your client were going to be treated with respect and fairness. As Judge Wyatt would always say, I'm going to be fair to you, and I'm going to be fair to you. Another fun part about raising funds for this portrait was listening to Judge Wyatt's stories and talking to the many attorneys we all now know or knew the recipe for a successful sentencing hearing in front of Judge Wyatt. If your client was Catholic, been in the Marines, went to Father Ryan, spent time in Detroit, or had a good mother, there was a great chance you were going to get probation. But while fair and kind, Judge Wyatt had some vinegar in it. My favorite story was told to me recently by Michael Brook and confirmed by Tom Thurman. They were trying a particularly vicious defendant across the street, and this defendant actually assaulted his attorney in open court and had to be forcefully removed out of the back of the courtroom. And as the defendant was being removed, he looked up at Judge Wyatt and said some things that I can't repeat, cussed him out. Judge Wyatt looked right back at him and said, "Right back at you." You probably remember that. All the stories and the kidding aside, for 40 some odd years, you've had the title of judge in your honor. And you take that title away, and you're still the same man. A kind, gentle, caring, compassionate, gentle man. And that's why Lisa and I took on this project, and that's why all these people contributed to it. There are a few people I want to single out with thanks. First and foremost, Lisa Naylor, my co-pilot in this endeavor. Katie Hagan, my law partner, for putting up with me using the office supplies. Joni Gore is here. I see her. She's our paralegal. She's the one that did all the work, wrote all the letters, processed the checks. Deborah Franklin, I don't know where she is. Instrumental in this project, as well as Tim Townsend putting on this show today. Others who went beyond the call of duty: Rich McGee, Judge Blackburn, Bill Ramsey, Roger May, Ed Yarborough, Hal Hardin, Carl Dean and his family, Brian Lewis and his family. And then finally, I need to thank Monica Mackey, who I saw earlier with the Bar Association, and Pinnacle Bank for all of their help. Finally, I want to introduce the portrait artist. Where's Mr. Neat? Where do you go? There you are. A lot of people don't know that we have one of the most famous portrait artists in the world in Nashville. Shane Neal has painted the likes of President George Herbert Walker Bush, Governor Phil Bredesen, Governor Bill Haslam, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, Senator Bill Frist, Senator Robert Byrd, Senator Arlen Specter, actors Morgan Freeman and Jimmy Fallon. Closer to home, his portraits of Judge Haynes and Judge Campbell are in the federal courthouse. So I recall meeting you with Judge Wyatt over at your studio in Green Hills, and we came in and you were wearing a bow tie and a blue blazer and had a wood-burning fireplace going, and you showed Judge Wyatt all these portraits that you had done. Well, needless to say, you had us at hello. So I want to have you come up, I guess up here where we're going to do it, or would you like to say a few words? Sure. Come up here and say a few words first.
Thank you so much. It's such a thrill to be here. I grew up in Nashville. My second great-grandfather was born on 2nd Avenue, just down here in 1840. I'm a 6th-generation Nashvillian. We're becoming more and more rare native Nashvillians. And I grew up playing golf at McCabe Golf Course. I bet some of you did. And my father was a member of the CCGA, the Capital City Golf Association. And every year around August, I would caddy for my dad, who's not a great golfer, but he loves to play. And we would always see on the putting green Judge Wyatt. And my father would always point him out to me, sort of whispered tones. "That's Judge Wyatt. He's a really important person." So in awe, and he had that, shock of black hair. And to a kid that's about, 12 years old, he was about 6 foot 8 inches tall. And he certainly was someone that I grew up knowing and knowing of and learning a lot about through my lifetime. But, of course, spending time with someone and getting to paint them, you know them better than in any other way you can possibly know a person. Judge Wyatt has seen this portrait. He posed for me in the studio over the last year. And so he's seen it from the ground up as we built it and painted it together. And, painting portraits is so cool because you're not just getting to know someone and what they look like, but you're also getting to know what they're like on the inside. It's not just the outer likeness, but it's also the inner likeness, the spirit of the person. Recently, I ran across a George Bernard Shaw quote that I just loved. And he said that we look to mirrors to see our likeness, but we look to artists to see our soul. And I thought that was really, really special because painting portraits is about those two things, the outer likeness, but also capturing the inner spirit of the person. And one of the things that I learned, as you all know, is that Judge Wyatt is everything that you think he is, and everything that you see on the outside is even more special on the inside. And he truly is a gentle giant, and I have had the great pleasure and honor of painting his portrait. Thank you so much, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Hardin, if I could have you step up and move over to the easel. As everyone knows, Hal Hardin, he needs no introduction, but he's notable that he did, in fact, chair the first campaign for Randall Wyatt in 1974 and you were co-attorneys with him in Division III, Judge Cornelius's court, as assistant district attorneys, and were undefeated, correct?
I believe that's correct, isn't it, Judge?
Ladies and gentlemen, Hal Hardin.
Thank you. And thank you, Randall, for the 50 years or whatever it is that you have given your services to this county and to this state. We're grateful. Thank you for giving me the honor of unveiling your portrait here. Thank you for being my partner, and also thank you for being my friend for all these many years. Enough said. I'm going to introduce and do my Vanessa White imitation the best I can and introduce Judge Wyatt. Portrait will hang in this courtroom. Judge Wyatt. This is an historic moment, not just because of the fabulous painting, but also because that's the shortest speech that Hal Hardin has ever given. Now, Hal and Judge Wyatt and I and some of the others in this room are in that age group that came along and were in high school, possibly college, or a little later, when a fellow named John F. Kennedy came on the scene. And I think it's safe to say that the three of us, and probably many of you, loved Jack Kennedy. And I'll always remember my interview with Tom Shriver when I was trying to be a student assistant in 1968, the year I met Big Hal. And Tom Shriver had this big desk up on the 6th floor of the county courthouse and had a picture of Jack Kennedy on the wall behind him. He'd been gone 5 years at that point. And of course, we all know that President Kennedy famously said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." If there's anyone in this room or in this county who has fulfilled that ultimatum, it's Randall Wyatt. He has served at every level in every possible aspect that you can think of. He came out of high school and went straight to the Marine Corps. He came out of the Corps and applied for a job with Mayor West, I believe, for a police officer. He got a job at the airport. At the same time, he was going to MTSU. He told me that in the 4 years he attended MTSU, he never slept in Murfreesboro. He came back every night, changed clothes on the side of the road, and went to work as a police officer. One of the hardest working men I believe I've ever known. When he finished that, he went on to the Vanderbilt Law School, went to the FBI, and ended up in Detroit. And if you were here for the retirement, you know a little more about that story, but my great friend and law partner, John Hollins, had a little hand in bringing him back from Detroit, and he got the job in the DA's office, and as we say, the rest was history. I could say a lot more, but I think you'd rather hear from him. So, Judge Wyatt, if you would please come on up. We'd like to hear what you have to say about today's ceremonies and anything you would like to say about the exhibit to my right. Should I just talk here?
Sure.
Okay. There's been so many good speakers here today, and most of them, all of them, are friends of mine, and I appreciate all of them so much. Father Breen, I met when I was in high school at Father Ryan. He was 1 year ahead of me in school, and he's always been a good man, a good priest, and I'm thankful for you to be here today, Joe Pat. I appreciate it. And thank you. And everyone else has spoken. The artist, portrait artist, he's a good guy. And first, and he's done a hell of a job here. You didn't have much to work with, but it turned out not that bad, you know. So anyway, I met with him several times, and we got to talking about golf one day, and then much to my surprise, because he's in such a distinguished place, his studio is beautiful, and it's really nice. And he played golf at McCabe, so I know what that is. So I'm glad to get to know you, and thank you for this. It's a beautiful job you did here, Shane. And everybody else in here that has spoken and been around and said a few things today. Ed Yarbo has been my friend from the beginning,
And as he said, or Hal said one, Hal Harden was my campaign manager when I first ran, and he was great. We had a good time running the campaign all over the whole county, Davidson County. The primary was okay, worked good. Hal did a good job. I still remember the night of the election, Hal. And Ed does too. Where's Ed anyway? Back over here. He remembers going home that night from Ireland's famous restaurant, Old 21st. He did well on that little drive. So anyway, Ed's such a friend. Hal is too. That it's just, you know, I don't really know what to say, to be honest with you. This is the courtroom I was in last. Judge Dalton is here now, and she's doing an excellent job as my successor in Division 2. So I'm glad you're here today, Angie. So anyway, all I know to say is that this has been a good ride, I guess you'd say. I've been a judge now, was a judge. I retired 2 years ago, for 43 years, I think it was. And I've been married to Kay for 56 years. And she's the highlight of my life right there. I mentioned this once before, but if you listen to the lyrics of this song, you'll know that I really mean what they say. As an artist, she's still singing. Gladys Knight's her name. And she had a lot of big time songs, but one of them she had that really reminds me of Kay and me and whatever. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. If you ever listen to the words of that song, they fit Kay and me, I hope. So anyway, she's a wonderful girl. I met her, she was a nurse. My mother grew up in the same neighborhood with her father. And so I thought that's a heck of a coincidence. And anyway, we've been married 56 years, had 5 children. They're all around over and through here. There's Jim, Vince right beside him, Vince's wife right beside him, Sammy. And then we got Lisa over here, who's got her hair changed a little color. I meant it as a compliment, Lisa. Pretty twin sister sitting right beside Laura Lee Wyatt. And she lives in Milwaukee now. She's a nurse practitioner. She's a wonderful daughter, just like her twin sister. And I never forget the day they were born. We were in Detroit. And on Friday, I used to meet a lot of other agents that worked around in Detroit. And we'd meet at this place, a little place you never heard of, probably called Hamtramck, which is a small little, almost an inner city neighborhood or something, not a suburb exactly. To have a fish fry, they had it every Friday in there. So we was in there, and I got a call. You need to go home. Your wife's calling, and I think she's ready to go to the hospital or something. And we didn't know we was going to have twins. I mean, it turned out wonderful, you know. But she was a little large. I mean, that has a complication because it turned out so. Back in those days, they didn't have x-rays and all this fancy stuff they got now where they knew what was everything about the child, you know. Then they didn't have it, so it maybe hurt the baby or something like that, I guess. But anyway, the first time I heard about these beautiful little girls, and they are still in my mind, beautiful little girls, and as is their sister Angie right beside them. They're all great daughters, ever was. The first time I knew they were going to be twins, though, is the doctor came out. I was in Detroit. Dearborn is the hospital, I think, where we were. So anyway, the doctor came out to see me after Laura and Lisa were born. And he says to me, well, you got double trouble here today. I said, what's that? What do you mean by that? He said, you got twin daughters. That's the first time I heard of it. Now, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 months ahead. But anyway, there they were. And so, and what's funny about that, and this really sounds kind of goofy in a way, but anyway, we had Angie 1 year after we were married. We had Jim right here 1 year after she was married, almost exactly the same day. I think they called us Irish twins or something in those days or something. But whatever, then after that, about 16 or 17 months later, we had the twin daughters in Detroit, Laura and Lisa. So we had 4 children. I'm not bragging about it. I don't even know where I don't know how that came out, but anyway. So anyway, we were so lucky. My mother, who had never been on an airplane in her life, flew up to Detroit. She had to change planes in Cincinnati, I think, it's the old days here, 1965 or 6 or something like that. So anyway, she came up and brought Jim and Angie home to Nashville. And And later I came and brought Laura and Lisa home with somebody driving, I think. But anyway, there they were, with their little twin girls, so pretty. Anyway, so was Angie, by the way. I'm not leaving her out. She was the first one. She's so pretty at St. Thomas Hospital, had black hair, and she looked wonderful. That's all I know to say. But anyway, I've talked mostly about my family, and you know, I've been very blessed. I was talking to Father Breen Leader last night or the night before last, and he kept reminding me how you've been so blessed. And he's talking about my family, I think, and I agree with that 100%, without any doubt. Father Breen's been around a while, and he knows somebody when they've been blessed a little bit, and I think I was. So anyway, I'm not here anymore. I see Ed Lambert there, one of my court officers, mainstays, and all kind of, I don't mean to leave anybody. I saw Walter Ogden. Where's Walter Ogden? Anyway, Walter was one of my first legal officers. Hey, I'm about to leave out my sister here. She's another pretty girl. Sitting right in, I see her daughter, I think it is, over there. So anyway, this is my sister Linda. And then my brother-in-law right behind her is Johnny Cole, and Bunny Hose, they're not Hose up anymore. But Bunny Cole is there with John Cole. Some of y'all know him. And then right beside him is the famous Mayor Bill Purcell. So he was in our courts for several years, and he still remembers the day when I learned I didn't have an opponent, what Ed was talking about, Hal or somebody was talking about. He was there down on the jail docket down the street. I was a general session judge then. But anyway, you don't want to hear any more about my career or whatever it is. I had an enjoyable time going to school at Mercersburg, before that in the Marine Corps, and after that, Vanderbilt Law School, and all the time working at night on the police department, 4 to 12, 3 to 11, whatever it was. It just seemed like it was what I wanted to do, you know. So anyway, this is a good crowd. Jim Price, I see him. I started naming people. I've been naming everybody in the whole place. But I know most of the people in here one way or the other. And that's another thing, let me say that. This is the best place to meet really good people and end up, even though you don't go around all the time with anybody that's special, so maybe 2 or 3 people you have. But, you know, it's just everybody in this room. They've just been good to me. I see everybody, judge here. 2 good ones right there. There's more than that. And another fine judge over here, Seth Norman's been a friend of mine since I first came back to Nashville from Detroit. And Seth has done a great job as a judge, and also done this drug court thing. And I've told him several times, that'll be his legacy, one of them. For what he's done to help people that needed help, and he knew how to handle that. So there's a lot more judges in here. I saw Tom Brothers. Here's my friend Ed Kendall. This man here was my law clerk. C.J. Duncan's his name. And he was a wide receiver for Vanderbilt. Come up here from Montgomery. Everybody knows I'm kind of a Vanderbilt fan. So anyway, I've talked too much already. I didn't know what I was even going to say when I got up here, and I just started talking. So anyway, Hal, thanks for everything, buddy. Ed, where are you? Thank you for everything. Joe Pat, good to meet you in 1952 or something, Ryan. And everybody else in here, I appreciate you being here today. The weather kind of relented a little bit. It was just a couple of days ago. It's been hard to get here almost. But David Moose over here, I knew him when I went to Cone. I went to Cone in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, which was over off Charlotte. And then I transferred to Ryan, and David's one of the best students in the whole class, there's no doubt about that. So anyway, I'm doing exactly what I said I shouldn't probably do. I just keep seeing people, and they're good people, all the people. Anyway, Bill Higgins grew up in the same neighborhood I did. Right behind him, John Aaron Holt, meet him at Sylvan Park. What's it? McCabe Pub, that's where you find him sometime. Not leave out Linda Hoffman sitting here. She was my secretary when I first went to General Sessions Court, and then stayed in criminal court, and later on, Debbie, where is she? Debbie's something else. She's really been so good, and Linda was too, very much. Both of them have a similar way of getting things done right. So I've talked enough, and I could say a whole lot of stuff about cases I've tried. I've had some interesting ones. So anyway, I'd leave that alone. But whatever it is, I'm thankful that I'm here today. I'm thankful that all of you are here. and I appreciate your friendship. Did I say anything about you, Bill? Anyway, Bill Purcell here, former Mayor Bill Purcell. I appreciate you being here, Bill. And Mayor Dean's wife is here, Ann Davis, and Howard Gentry, criminal court clerk. I can go all day on this stuff, you know. And I know most of the people in here. It's just, you know, I can't. My sister-in-law Linda's here, my brother's widow. Mark had a wonderful brother, and he was around here for a while, so a lot of you know him. But his wife is sitting right there next to my sister. Did I introduce you, Linda? It's two Lindas right next to each other. So, anyways, huh? Oh, Linda. Three Lindas. And anyway, thank all the Lindas in here. That's all. Enough, and I think they got a reception they planned here, and I mean it from the heart, that I thank all of you for taking the time to come here today, and it's a good, nice moment for me, and I appreciate your friendship, all of you. I don't need to say any more names anymore, but everybody in here is a friend the way I look at things, and I've enjoyed being around here for 43 years. Good place. I miss it, do, but I'd rather be hanging around with my wife, I think, so very much would rather. And we got 13 grandchildren, by the way, in case you're interested. That's all I'm saying, man. Anyway, W.O., thank you for being here, buddy. Anyway, I'm going to close by saying, I'm just going to say thank you very much. I love you. I do. I love my wife. So that's good, and I'm lucky to have met her. Anyway, I don't know much else. Yolanda, glad you're sitting here with Kay. You've been so good to us, help us. And a good friend, too. Anyway, I don't know who I left out. And
They don't want to hear anything.
Now, we have invaded Judge Dalton's space here, so it's only fair that she gets the last word.
she's doing a great job, by the way.
Anybody, you did a great job.
Yes, yes.
Let me just sit down.
Oh. Thank you so much, and it's something to have to follow Judge Wyatt, not only today, but just when I took over in Division II just almost 2 years ago. And it has been a wonderful time serving in Division II, and I thank you, Judge Wyatt. Before I begin with the closing remarks, I want to thank everybody for being here, but especially I want to acknowledge, and I'm not going to individually name because I'll miss somebody and then I'll be in trouble, but definitely acknowledge all of the judges and all of the elected officials who took time out of your schedules to be here. We definitely want to thank you for being here this afternoon. And for everybody who is here, I think that Jim acknowledged those of you who participated in the campaign for this beautiful portrait, but we thank you for being present this afternoon as we acknowledge the commitment of the Honorable J. Randall Wyatt for his many years of service in the judiciary by dedicating this very beautiful portrait in his honor. A quote from an unknown author reads, "The judiciary's foremost role in our government is to defend and uphold the United States Constitution and assure the rule of law prevails. Under that general duty and mandate, the everyday work of the judiciary reflects to some extent the level of a court's or judge's jurisdiction. However, a pervasive element in the judiciary's role at every level is the protection of each person's constitutional, human, civil, and legal rights." Having practiced before His Honor and for all of the attorneys in this room who have ever practiced in front of Judge Wyatt, I think that we can all attest that Judge Wyatt presided pursuant to the role that is expected of the judiciary as stated in the reference quote. Thank you, Judge Wyatt, not only for your service, but for being an example for the judiciary. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for being here. As I mentioned, there is a reception in the hallway. We're going to ask that Judge Wyatt and his family, that you greet with them in the hallway at the reception. With that being said, if there's no further business before Division 2 of the Davidson County Criminal Court, court is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.